For about 2 weeks, GPT-5.6 was so locked down that, according to reporting from Axios and CNBC, only around 20 government-approved organizations were even allowed to run it. Not the public, not developers, roughly 20 vetted groups, and now that lock is coming off. OpenAI is putting GPT 5.6, along with its 3 versions, Sol, Terra, and Luna, in front of everyone. So let me walk you through what this restricted model actually was, why the United States government got involved in the first place, what the fine print really says, and one crucial detail that a lot of the headlines are getting wrong. Because the honest version of this story is more interesting than the hype. Let me start with what GPT 5.6 even is. It is OpenAI's newest and most capable family of models, and it comes in 3 flavors. Sol is the flagship, the biggest and most powerful. Terra is the balanced one, tuned for everyday work. And Luna is the fast, cheap option for when you want speed and low cost over raw horsepower. Together, they are meant to cover everything from heavy research down to quick everyday tasks. That is the product. The reason you are hearing about it, though, is not the model lineup. It is the fact that for a while, you were not allowed to use it. Here is what happened. Instead of the usual launch, OpenAI rolled GPT 5.6 out under a restricted preview, limited to a small set of trusted, government-approved organizations at the request of the United States government. And in the background, the Commerce Department, through a group called the Center for AI Standards and Innovation, ran a technical review of the model. According to the reporting, that review was focused on the scary categories: cybersecurity, biological and chemical risks, and the model ability to improve itself. OpenAI reportedly even sent technical experts to Washington to sit there and answer questions during the process. So this was not a normal product delay, this was a frontier AI model being examined by the federal government before the public was allowed to touch it. Now here is the crucial detail, the one I really want you to walk away with, because it is where a lot of coverage goes wrong. It is very tempting to say the government approved GPT 5.6 or gave it a green light, but that is not accurate, and the White House itself pushed back on that framing hard. A White House official disputed that the administration gave any green light, approval, or clearance, and said, and this is close to a direct quote, that no such permission is required or granted, and that decisions on the timing and scope of releases rest entirely with the companies. They pointed to an executive order from June 2nd that actually bars mandatory federal licensing or pre-clearance for releasing AI models. So read that carefully, the restrictions being lifted is real, but it is not the government stamping GPT 5.6 as safe and blessing it. The official line is closer to, this was always the company decision, and no permission was needed. That is a meaningful difference. Restrictions lifted, yes. Government seal of approval, no. And anyone selling you the second version is overselling it. And if this whole pattern sounds familiar, it should, because it just happened to somebody else. Last month, that same government pressure led Anthropic to pull its most powerful models, including Claude Fable 5, under a US export control, treating a piece of AI software a bit like weapons-grade technology. Those restrictions were then lifted at the start of July, and Fable 5 came back. So in the span of a few weeks, we have watched 2 of the biggest AI labs in the world have their top models briefly gated by Washington and then released. Whatever you think about it, that is a genuinely new era. The frontier of AI is now close enough to national security that the government is in the room. And it is worth understanding why, because it is not really about the chatbot writing your emails. The fear at the frontier is narrow and specific. Could a model like this meaningfully help someone with cyber attacks, finding and writing working exploits? Could it lower the bar on biological or chemical weapons information? And can it improve itself, get better at its own training in ways that are hard to predict? Those 3 buckets, cyber, bio-chem, and self-improvement, are exactly what the Commerce Department review reportedly focused on. It is not that anyone thinks Sol is going to launch a missile. It is that when a single model gets capable enough across all of human knowledge, a small slice of that capability touches things governments genuinely care about. So the review was less, is this a good product? And more, does releasing this widely create a specific national security risk? And the fact that the answer was, go ahead and release it, tells you something about where that line currently sits. So what does lifting the restrictions actually get you? The GPT 5.6 family is moving to a broad public rollout, with preview access opening up globally and general availability following in the days and weeks after. In practice, That means the model that 20 vetted organizations were testing behind closed doors is becoming the model you can just open and use, Sol for the heavy lifting, Terra for the balanced daily driver, Luna for fast and cheap. The exact moment it flips fully public can vary by a day and by region, because these rollouts always come in waves, so if you do not see it the second you finish this, that is normal. Let me be honest about the caveats, because this is exactly the kind of story that gets exaggerated. First, that number, around 20 organizations, and the details of what the Commerce Department reviewed come from reporting by Axios and CNBC, not from a full official breakdown, so treat the specifics as well-sourced, but still reporting. Second, and I will say it one more time because it matters, government approved here describes the small group of organizations that got early access. It does not mean the government approved or endorsed the public release. The White House explicitly said it did not. And third, powerful and available is not the same as flawless and safe for everything. The whole reason there was a review is that these frontier models raise real questions, and lifting a restriction does not make those questions disappear. It just moves the decision back to where the White House says it always was, with the company. But step back and look at the shape of this. A little over a year ago, the idea that the United States government would quietly gate the release of a chatbot model, run a security review on it, and then have a public fight with the press about whether it approved it or not, would have sounded absurd. Now it is a Tuesday. GPT-5.6 was locked to about 20 organizations, Rahel, studied by the Commerce Department, for cyber and bio and self-improvement risks, Arakam 20, and now it is being unleashed to everyone, all while the White House insists it never needed to say yes in the first place. That tension between AI moving at full speed and governments trying to figure out their role is going to define the next few years, and GPT-5.6 is the clearest example of it yet. So here is what I would do. Once GPT-5.6 reaches you, do not just poke at Sol because it is the flagship. Try the same real task across Sol, Terra and Luna and pay attention to the trade-off, how much quality you actually lose stepping down versus how much speed and cost you gain. That is the practical question now that the gate is open, and honestly it is a more useful test than any benchmark. And if you want the clear, honest version of every one of these AI moments, the wins, the caveats, and the parts other channels skip, subscribe, because at this pace there is always another one coming, and I will keep giving it to you straight.